All right. Good morning, and welcome back, everyone. We are now ready to begin our workshops. We believe everyone has been assigned at this particular time. If not, you will be assigned here shortly. This corporate workshop is going to focus on increasing MBE responses to RFPs, RFQs, and bid solicitations. And it will be presented by my friend, none other than Nia Richardson. Thanks to Holder FCI, the sponsor of this particular workshop. This information will be made available to you. Nia Richardson oversees the day-to-day operations of the Kansas City Biz Care Office. That's the city's business customer service center, a free business resource, advocacy, and information center for new and existing businesses operating within Kansas City. Established in 2009, BizCare provides guidance and assistance for businesses navigating the city's licensing, permitting, and vendor approval processes. Her work also includes streamlining initiatives to remove barriers to entry and systemic issues that impede a business's ability to grow in Kansas City. She is a staunch advocate between businesses and city departments to coordinate business-related concerns. Her work is vital to the city's goal of becoming the most entrepreneurial city in America. Nia started with the city in November of 2018, but her work in this area did not begin there. Please welcome my friend and fellow advocate, Nia Richardson.
Well, thank you. And good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Sorry, I'm back. I got pulled into a breakout room. So my apologies. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Nia Richardson. I work with the city of Kansas City. I'm the assistant to the director for small business and entrepreneurship. As mentioned earlier, I run our KC BizCare office. And today I can share. I'm going to talk to you about increasing MBE responses to RFP and bids, which in my arena, working with the city, is what we call inclusive procurement. And so some of the things I'm going to share with you today is just basically what we've been working on, or what I've been working on with in partnership with other departments to really build more inclusive procurement, to remove barriers for our small businesses, particularly our minority-owned businesses, to access contracts, as well as capital. We have other ideas for that because they can't perform on the contracts without the capital. But today we're just really going to focus on what we were doing really just in COVID-19. It started beforehand, but COVID-19 is when a lot of this really picked up to really enhance the work that we're doing around inclusive procurement. And I'll try my best to go through this because I would prefer to have a lot more discussion than anything. But we're going to try to relate it back to a corporate setting. But most of what you'll see today is more so in the government public setting. And then we can kind of go back and forth of how that looks more in corporate. So this was pretty much a partnership between my office, the KC BizCare office, and the Human Relations Department, which certifies businesses for Kansas City. So Kansas City has a minority-owned business certification, women-owned business, disadvantaged business, small business enterprise, small local business enterprise, and both are interchangeable between municipal and federal. So DBE, SBE is federal related, MW and SLBE are all municipal related. So with KC BizCare office, what we typically do is we assist and support entrepreneurs in Kansas City that are looking to start a business. So in order for anyone to even do business with the city, or really anyone else or any of you guys, they have to establish their business and they have to license their business if they are physically located in Kansas City or if they are operating in Kansas City. Even if they're from another state and they're doing a contract, they still have to be licensed with our business license office here in Kansas City, Missouri. So in order for you to even be a vendor, you have to have a business license. That's step one. So we help and assist folks with at least getting that far. We created a new site, bizcare.kcmo.gov. We had to pivot virtually in COVID as well. And so through that site, we created these guides and checklists to really simplify the process for starting a business in Kansas City, getting a business license. And now we're introducing more things like procuring with the city and certifications and things of that sort, which I will talk about later. But a lot of this effort was a collaboration between my office and Human Relations Department, and really was spearheaded by a grant that we received through Living Cities around inclusive procurement. And we got the opportunity to work with 9 other cities who are doing similar things or looking for other cities to kind of model around inclusive procurement. So we had to really, when applying for that, I had to identify what the challenge is. Kansas City, when it comes to public work or programs, we have to do what's called a disparity study to really come up with or make the case for the fact that there is a disparity with minority or women-owned businesses when it pertains to accessing contracts. Lending Tree put out a report, I believe this was like 2018, 2019, and it ranked Kansas City as number 49 out of 50 cities. St. Louis is number 50, they're right behind us. And as a whole, that tells me the state of Missouri is not doing as great as it could be when it comes to minority-owned businesses. And so minority-owned business owners are underrepresented in Kansas City at about 2.4%. A federal study released by the Minority Business Development Agency in 2017 found that the needle had barely moved in boosting minority business participation in public contracts. What we did, I run another program, which is a startup and residency program, how startups can actually access opportunities with the city, which is another form of or entryway for procurement that we were removing barriers to. But we had a partner that worked with us during COVID-19 in our Human Relations Department, and we've interviewed several certified businesses, administrators, and we were really examining the current certification process, procurement process. What were the barriers that our businesses were coming up against when trying to access contracts? We came up with 120 different challenges and grouped them down to 13 solutions. And our top solution, or our 13 different solutions, process improvements and policy changes. And our top solution was to expand solicitation. We went through everything, had everybody vote on it. And this is the one thing that our businesses said that they wanted to see. One of the most common complaints that we get from minority businesses is that they are not aware of contracting opportunities. I've only been with the city for 2 years, a little over 2 years now. Before working with the city, I worked on the other side. I worked for my father, who has a civil and structural engineering business, and I was his business development person. So I was the one coming to the primes and negotiating the contract opportunities or opportunities to participate on contracts, or kind of reverse negotiating by saying, hey, here's some opportunities that we would like to partner with you on. So I know what it's like on that end to really go about getting contract opportunities. I was the person who had to search every day through hundreds or different sites to figure out where those opportunities were, because there's not one central site to do that. Every agency is different, and that takes a lot of time. And when you have small businesses, particularly minority or Black-owned businesses, not everybody has that support within their staff to do so. So either someone's wearing several hats, and it was very rare that you found someone like me that was my only hat that I should have been wearing, but probably wasn't, to really identify where those opportunities were. And what made a difference for us is when the city, through its overflow control program, our water service department was actually more proactive in putting out opportunities that were coming up through that large infrastructure program. And so that changed the negotiation, that changed how we talked to primes, that changed how we approach different things, just even knowing what was coming and then how to prepare ourselves. So of course, the initial step was forecasting. What do you buy? When are you going to buy it? And who is the buyer or the project manager in some sense? So for us with the city, the people will be looking to identify the project managers, because they are the ones that are overseeing the contracts or whatever that we're working on. For you guys, it's the buyer that we see for supplier diversity. It's who is the buyer? When are they going to buy it? What do they want? When do they want it? How do they want it is another good thing. So forecasting or creating a buying guide is one of the steps that we are looking towards implementing here with the city of Kansas City. And so I've been working with some council people and as well as city staff to figure out how we can come together through procurement and through these directors to direct them to get that information to our procurement department, which will get it to our human relations department, who sets the goals, which can get it to me, who interfaces with the businesses to say, here are the opportunities that are coming out. Here's how you can prepare yourself for that. Here's what the city is buying. So just a simple step of just going in internally and understanding what you need or what you're trying to buy from these businesses, and then letting them know that is a huge step into getting more participation from businesses, because that's usually the hurdle. Normally, I'm in conversations where people will start with the end goal of technical assistance, but I believe that comes in with the assumption that all businesses are inadequate, which is false. Just because they're minority owned or women owned does not mean that they are less adequate than any type of prime business that is out there that's coming through one door while you're creating a smaller door for other businesses to come through. So the goal is not to create a small door. The goal is to expand the door that you have where people can come in and purchase and procure with you. And so how do you do that is by putting out the opportunities for people to know what's coming and what they can come and talk to you about. That's actually going to help your buyers in the end as well, because now you can kind of filter through and say, okay, now we have this opportunity, and I know these people are going to be able to respond to this or have interest in this, and here's how we can help make sure that they're ready for that. The next step that we're doing is committing to buying local or buying small. The city of Kansas City has a small local business program. Because it is race and gender neutral, we can break up bigger contracts, we can set aside contracts, and through the small local business enterprise program, small businesses can compete with their peers. So we're not putting them in an arena where they're competing with the big guys who have more resources to be able to present or provide anything that you need, or may have access to certain supplies or things like that, that the smaller businesses may not have. So now we have created an arena where small businesses compete amongst their peers. They are the primes on the contract. And this is also an opportunity for a small business to go to a bigger firm and say, hey, we're going after this contract, let's partner. So now it becomes a two-way street. Traditionally, it would seem like small businesses or minority-owned business would come with our hands out to say, hey, we want to be a part of this. Can we participate with you? Versus saying, hey, here's some opportunities that we see that we would like to work with you on, and here's some opportunities we would like for you to work with us on that we would like to chase. So for small local business enterprise program, it allows my small businesses to really get in, compete. MWBE helps them build their capability and capacity so that they can come over here to the SLBE and actually compete and go after bigger projects that they are the prime on. So that really helps their resume when they're going after other contracts. Because as you heard before, some of these buyers are people who are trying to help these businesses, want to see what you've done. They want to know that you can handle a contract of this size, or you know how to manage one, you know how to pitch. Those are the things we want to make sure that we give opportunities to. So procurement guides and checklists. If you go to our website, KC BizCare, bizcare.kcmo.gov, one of the things that we're working on is trying to create these guides to really assist our businesses with understanding what the steps are. Because of COVID-19, it's kind of limited our availability to see people face to face. And so we've pivoted those things virtually. So now people can see literally from their phone, what steps do I need to take? It's a heads up. Hey, this is what you need to prepare so that you can complete your vendor application, so that you can get a business license, or here's some other things that you need to consider. So one of the things that we're doing, or that we have right now, we have a procurement guide, and some of the other ones that we're going to be working on would be guides and checklists for certification. I believe that, I think we take a paper application, but I believe we also have an online application for certification that we're really trying to push people to, because that process is faster and it will help kind of get people certified quicker if they go through that process. But we need to give them a heads up to know what to expect before they go online to this virtual system and begin to fill out their application. That way they can have everything prepared and ready to go, because it's not a straightforward, okay, put the information in, you're done. There's a lot of attachments or things that are needed for our businesses to get them certified. As far as procurement goes, what we're doing, I discovered that our procurement department did not have an online application. And so I have a developer that is about done with completing an application, an online application for people to fill out. And it will be as easy as for them to fill out from their phone. So again, we have to make it easy to an extent for people to sign up, be a part of, and get access to these different opportunities. Now, how you compete, how you pitch, that's on you. But I've done my part to make sure that you have access, you know where to go, you know what you need, you know how to find them so that you can go out in the marketplace and compete for these different opportunities. So the biggest thing that I would say to anyone in the corporate, if you have a program, understand where those opportunities are and communicate that to the businesses, leverage your partners like the development council to understand and let them know and educate them on where the opportunities are so that they can educate the businesses that they're working with too, which also makes it easier for you to communicate and connect with them. But what they also need to know is, what is your process? How does someone become a vendor with you? How long does that take? What do they need? Who is the best person to contact for that? Or give us everything so we can prepare them so that they can come to you ready to go. Technical assistance in business development. One of the things that we're doing, one of the things that we learned through BizCare Office, through this COVID time, we have a PPP prep program where we provide technical assistance to businesses. As of right now, our data is showing that we have helped access over $1 million in capital for the businesses that we work with. Most of the businesses are Black or minority owned and in our low to moderate income areas. What we found from that program is that the back office support or back office relationships is what was very essential for our businesses at this time. Knowing the accountant, the attorney, the banker. We had some 75% of the businesses that we provided technical assistance to had business banking accounts, but just about as many didn't have a relationship with the banker, which means they had no idea if the bank was accepting PPP loans. So we found that just having a relationship with the banker was very essential, but also who's doing your books. And what we saw was a lot of these businesses, whoever was doing their books, their accounting, their tax returns were being transactional, meaning they were just doing whatever they needed to do, moving them on. They weren't providing them any innovative support services or consultation to say, hey, here's the best route for you. Most of them were being told to show a loss or zero revenue, which prohibits them from accessing capital later on. So example, PPP prep. It was hard for us to work with some businesses because they had in their filings, they had, showed that they had no revenue, they didn't make anything. So it's like, well, I can't get money for you. You weren't making money in the first place. You didn't lose anything. You weren't making anything. So we found that those who were providing the service providers for back office support were just as essential in understanding what they needed to know so that they can better educate the businesses. So what we were trying to do was create a back office support program or professional service residency program where I am training these consultants, these attorneys, these accountants to say, hey, here's the city's processes. Here's what they need to get a certification, because it will probably require an attorney or an accountant to help with those documents. Here's what we're looking for. Here's how they bid. Here's where those opportunities are. Here's what they need for bonding. Here's what, all those different things is what I feel that we need to help our service providers better understand so that they can provide better service to our businesses, because our business owners don't know everything. And I think we make it too hard for our small business owners to say, hey, you got to know everything about everything. No, you need to know a little bit about everything. You need to know enough to ask the right questions, to know when someone is not giving you the right information, to know how to navigate, or to even know who to hire or bring onto your team to help you make your business successful. So the reason why I put technical assistance last, again, we don't want to walk into the situation assuming our businesses are inadequate. We know we have businesses that are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old that have been doing this for years and are still having the same barrier issues when it comes to accessing contracts. So we wanted to make sure we create the opportunities first, put it out there, create the demand, and then come back and provide the technical assistance so that we can also build up the supply to meet that demand. We got contracts coming out. We need businesses to respond to those. We need businesses to perform on those contracts. And we also want those businesses to perform well, because we want to dispel the idea or the notion that minority businesses don't know how to perform. Because a lot of people will say that under their breath behind your back. It is a common misconception. And I think it has to do with a lot of the fact of that we're not preparing our businesses. We're not telling them what they need. We're just pushing them through and expecting them to perform. And really, we're not preparing them or telling them what they need to do in order to get there. So this is generally what we are doing with the city as it pertains to inclusive procurement, to try to provide bigger or better access to contract opportunities. And really, like I said, it's really as simple as going in internally and saying, okay, what do we need? What are we buying? How often do we buy it? When do those contracts expire? And let's get that information out there, whether that's through your website, whether that's through your partners like the council, letting them know, helping them advertise those opportunities, leverage them for what you need when it comes to making communications with these businesses. These businesses are no different than any other businesses. So go about it the same way. What do you need? Here's what we have. What can you do? Here's who you need to go talk to. And let's move them along in that type of ecosystem. So I'm going to stop there and open it up for discussions, questions, because I would love to talk more than anything instead of talking at you all day. And just let me know how we can get started on a discussion. Marvin, you want to get started?
Nia, this has all been extremely wonderful. I know that you have a lot of experience in this area, but also it's an experience as a minority business owner, as an entrepreneur. Your family has been in business for quite some time.
Oh yeah, as long as it's been alive.
Absolutely. And your family runs one of the most well-respected firms, engineering firms, civil and structural engineering firms in our region. And so we appreciate that about you as well. But as I listen to you talk about, making opportunities available, and I want to push back just a little bit, because you make it sound so simple, but we often hear and we often hear a lot of objections or a lot of obstacles to creating a supplier diversity program or making those opportunities available. Can you just speak to that a little bit? Because I mean, you and again, no criticism or anything like that, but you simplified in such a way. Is it really that easy? Or how can, maybe the better question is, how can our corporate members, or how can corporate America and large purchasing organizations make it easier, based upon what you're sharing?
So like the challenge that we're having with the city, yeah, it sounds pretty easy. And when I'm having conversations with our council, they're like, okay, so how do we do that? Well, you have to direct your city manager, who is the CEO for the city, to direct his directors to say, okay, send that information where it should go. It's a process of communication. So that's a breakdown that we're already having. We already do our capital improvement plans where we're projecting out 5 years. Why is it that being communicated here and being communicated over here so that it can be put out here? So it sounds easy, but yes, it is going to take a process. I'm not really sure how much easier it is for corporate, because you guys don't operate the same way as a city would do as it pertains to getting that information from one space to another. I don't know if it's as simple as, hey, whoever your supplier diversity person is, to go around to those buyers and say, hey, what's your listing coming up? How do I get that out? There's a variety of ways that you can go about it. My question to anyone who's on the call is, how are you guys doing it now? Are you doing it now? And if so, what does that look like? Because I can only speak from the standpoint of what the city is doing. And because we have different departments, processes, it has to go a certain way. I got to go through the bureaucracy of the politics of things. It moves a little bit slower. So I apologize. It's not as easy as it sounds, but it's an easy first step. Because what is going to be harder is if you take the approach of, okay, we need to provide the technical assistance first. Well, that takes longer to build. And it's like, is it the chicken before the egg, or like, what are you preparing them for? You're putting them through a program and you can't even tell them what they need to be prepared for at the end of it. Now, if you knew what you had, If you knew you were going to buy a bunch of computers by the end of the year, okay, prepare around that, create some technical assistance and support around that. One example of a program through the city's overflow control program or smart sewer program. Ironically, before I started working with the city, while working with my father, I was on the team with Burns and McDonald, and I was one of the people who worked to say, okay, if you just keep the goals the same, you're going to have zero impact on our businesses. You're going to have to figure out a way to increase the goals so that we get more small businesses becoming primes. How do we go from sub to prime? And you got billions, $4.5 billion of opportunities for our small businesses to do that. So what was created was we expanded the SLBE program because the threshold was like 117,000 for design professionals, and we increased it to $500,000. That was 3 or 4 businesses that primed with water services to now over 20 something businesses that are priming. What we also did was they created the OCP University. Around all the contracts that were happening, they created a program where the small businesses could come in, see face-to-face with the project managers, learn how they want to see their bids. What do you need? How do you want your projects to be delivered? And what that did for my father, what I got to witness, is he took all that information that they told them, he went into his business and he rearranged his whole process to cater to the need of his primary client. And that made a significant difference in how we responded, how we delivered, and how we performed on contracts. But that was inside information that small businesses normally don't get. And it's simple to help us better prepare. And that made a world of a difference. So that could be one way, or OCP is one example where we took a large project and we put parameters or programs or initiatives around it to create better access and opportunity for our small businesses.
Wow, that's absolutely phenomenal. And it kind of lends back to the mentorship programs that I believe Joyce referenced earlier with T-Mobile, to be able to come in, learn those processes, what the expectations are, and then for the MBE to be able to adjust. Because oftentimes, Nia, our MBEs, and you kind of referenced this earlier, our MBEs, there are 2 things that are typically said. One, we don't know that they exist, or we don't know how to reach them, right? And then the other is, well, we don't know if they're qualified. And so what you just spelled out to me is a process by which not only can you reach qualified MBEs, but the city acted in such a way to make sure that they were well qualified in terms of understanding the expectations and what you were looking for, not only and I would just stretch a little bit further, not only in the bid process, but even with regards to execution, right? Because the bid has to reflect exactly the scope of work you're going to perform.
Yeah.
So for our companies that are on, I mean, the city, from my perspective in dealing with government over a number of years, it's a lot of red tape, and usually it's less flexible. It would seem like, for our private industry, that there would be more flexibility to establish programs like this or processes like this to enable our MBEs to gain greater access.
Right. Yeah, and what corps can do that I can't do, you can specify. I want to spend X amount of dollars with Black-owned businesses. I want to spend X amount of dollars with brown or LGBTQ based business. You can specify. I can't do that. I have to stay neutral in the process. But corps, you have the advantage of specifying who you may want to cater to here and there. You may have a small business spend, but you may say, I want to make sure we're helping over here with, and I keep coming back to Black-owned businesses, because if you look at the racial wealth gap, Black people are the only race on set by 2082 to have zero to negative wealth. You might want to check your stuff right now because you might already be there. But if that is the case, we need to make sure we're helping those with the greatest need. And one way to help our racial wealth gap is through entrepreneurship. Give us the contract opportunities. Provide us remove the barriers for us to access capitals. We're working on, I'm going through this ARP conversation now with our council and city manager. Hey, invest ARP funds invest those ARP money into a small business fund where we can create inexpensive and accessible capital for our businesses to be able to grab so that they can perform on contracts. My goal is to get our businesses capital and contract ready, because I know one can't succeed without the other. And I'm also trying to make sure you have everything you need structural wise, that you're ready to go. I don't need for you to jump over a hoop over here to get this certification or make sure you have this vendor application. You're ready to go. And what I've learned working for the city is that I've literally had to build out the ecosystem of how that happens. So don't think that an ecosystem is one big thing that just exists. We all have to go in and create our own. And I would challenge all the corps to go and create an ecosystem around your procurement process of how you support, train, give access, all those different things. And if they don't have something, where do they go next? If they need more technical assistance or development support, where do you send them? That's a part of an ecosystem. So you're just not pushing them out the door. Help them get to that resource that they need. Provide that customer service to them. And that's what I want to make sure corps do understand. And I'm not speaking as Nia from the city. I'm speaking as Nia who used to work for a small business. Customer service to our small business is essential. Talking to them like they are human beings in regular small business is essential. Pushing them away or having them call so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, that was annoying to me. Do not do that. It is essential that you help them. If you can't help them, move them on to someone who can. Do not push them away. Do not waste their time, because now you're wasting their money, and then they're going to gripe, moan, and complain about you when you should have just been helping them. So part of what you need to do in your role is not just say, okay, here's how you can get on a contract opportunity here, but oh, here's some other resources over here, because my goal is for you to be successful as small businesses. And if we all work together on that level, yes, we can make Kansas City the most entrepreneurial city in America.
Man, that is awesome. One of the things a couple points I want to touch on, because you're giving us a wealth of information and insight as to how the city of Kansas City's processes are working to create equity, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but one of the things you talked about is that private industry can have a race-specific goal setting, if you will, right. And to affect some of the most disinvested populations, right? And so, I look at some of our newer corporate members that are establishing supplier diversity programs. It seems like it would be advantageous to start off by setting goals for a specific group instead of trying to bite off such a large piece of the apple, if you will. Mm-hmm. And what are your comments around that, or what are your thoughts?
So basically, let me make sure I understand your question clearly. Is it so basically trying to find crumbs versus trying to find bigger pieces of the pie?
No. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that if you have a corporation that's trying to establish a supplier diversity program, right? And they see it as such this daunting task. Mm-hmm. Well, why not start with a specific racial group and say, okay, how can we make inroads there? And how can we create opportunities there? So while we're impacting this specific population, we're getting some wins and building evidence, but then we're also building our program.
Yeah. That's actually a smart move as well, because you can work closer with a specific community and then begin to build those resources around that, especially when you have communities that have language barriers. So if you said, okay, I want to have an arm for Hispanic or Brown or Latinx business buy, working better with the community. So working with the Hispanic Chamber, working with Mountain Plains, working with or the Hispanic Economic Development Corporation. But what are the resources within that community that you can begin to create an ecosystem around? And so it is going to be advantageous upon you as the buyer or the supplier diversity person to go out in the community, build those relationships so that you know who you can work with and where you can send them, or what other resources are available to them if you are working with someone who they might not, they look like they have some of this ready, but they might need something over here. They might need some more technical assistance, or they might need better access to capital so that they can handle or take advantage of this contract. So where do I send them? Where do I go? So it's going to be really important for you to build those relationships, because it's been very important for me to build those relationships. So again, I see businesses, I don't tell them, what's wrong with their business, I just say, here, you have a business, here's how you get everything set up. You want to do business with the city, here's where you can go for that. You need resources for business planning, here's where you go for that. You looking for access to capital, here's where you go for that. Really, it could be a partnership even with the city and our ecosystem and what we're doing. I would love to see where we are putting out, I hope that we can get the city manager to really get stuck on doing the forecasting and us doing the small business guide, and us also being able to help support other corporations that have contract opportunities and maybe centralizing where those opportunities sit so all our certified businesses can find them and access them easily. It could be a collaboration of that sort. You don't have to really work in a silo. If you're looking to start something, if you want to know what the resources are, you can call me and I can try to help point you in that direction. But again, you really have to build an ecosystem or a village, is what I used to call it before coming into this industry, around what your effort is going to be. But yeah, you can start there. You can say, because I think KC Rising is doing the initiative where they're having the CEO challenge. We're in those conversations together to say we're going to commit 20% or 30% buy to small business, Black-owned business, brown businesses, whatever, LGBTQ businesses, whatever. But making that commitment is one. But I would say before you make that commitment, look deeper inside first and say what you can actually commit, and what opportunities are you're missing from your commitments. You may have something over here, and you're like, oh, we could really have small businesses do that. We can really put some opportunities there for them. Look at the contracts you have expiring. So do an analysis first internally, then make the commitment, have everything ready to go before you really say businesses come to us, and then you're not prepared for them to actually perform.
Gotcha. And so we have a question in our chat. Do you see in your relationships with corporations and government entities mixed expectations because they generally combine small business programs and minority-owned business programs, which are really two different programs?
Yeah, those are two different programs. I think that it needs to be more opportunities where we're working together, because between the city and between you guys, this is where you go to find the certified businesses. Our certification plays more heavily on government contracting. Your certification plays very heavily on the corporate contracting opportunities. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people ask me, okay, well, what should I do? Well, what do you do? What do you sell? What do you, because you may not need to do that. You may not need to go through all of that to get what you need to get done. But I think there should be more opportunities where we're working together, so it's not a conflict, and we are sharing resources and we are sharing the opportunities, because in our region, we're talking to the same businesses. So it should be, okay, I see an opportunity here with the city, great. Oh, here's another opportunity over here. Oh, go see Marvin over here for this one. We should be moving them along in our ecosystem. So if I could add corps and supplier diversity or inclusive procurement with the corps to our ecosystem, then boom, we're ready to go.
Yeah. And so I want to kind of ask a question, I guess, as it relates to MBEs, because sometimes I see our MBEs here locally in particular are heavily focused on government contracts, where you might have 90% or better of their business is dependent upon those government contracts. Yeah. And so it's like they have all of their eggs in one basket. Now, I'm a staunch advocate that, hey, every certification that you can get and maximize, I think you should get. And of course, I'm going to push the council certification, yep. But I also push the city of Kansas City certification for those who are contracting with the city. But yep. what needs to, how can we, ensure that minority-owned businesses are moving in such a way where they're not just heavily dependent on government contracts? I mean, we see I know the Kansas City has a $4 billion budget, right? But we saw sales tax revenue. We saw it shrink with the pandemic, mm-hmm. which could mean lessened opportunities, this year and maybe even the next year or what have you. So as we're looking at that, how do we help influence MBEs to, one, expand their outlook in terms of what contracts or who they're approaching for contracts, but again, also, to make sure that we're doing the same with our corporate members to make those contracts available. Yeah.
So that question is really more of a strategic marketing question. That's more of a technical question for the businesses, because I used to have these debates with my father all the time. Like, hey, we can't have all our eggs in one basket here. We need to be in other markets. Government contracting is political. You speak too much over here, they might cut you off. You know, and corporate can be the same, but more quietly than we can. But that's a strategic marketing deal. And I think when it comes to that back office support, that's why it's so important that these professional service providers understand that and help train our businesses and provide that consultation for them on that. I've met too many consultants who just push people to certification without understanding their business or why they need to do it, so that they can strategically tell them how to leverage that certification, not be dependent upon that certification to have a thriving business. People need to understand that certifications should be a stepping stone. It should not be your livelihood. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what color, what your orientation is, you are a business. And that is how you need to be seen. And that is how you need to walk through the door selling yourself. I would never go through the door of anyone when I was working on my father's business, say, oh, we're a minority-owned business. No, we are a civil and structural engineering business. We provide a niche in water infrastructure. Here's the work that we've done. Here's what we do, because I was pushing for partnerships. I was not pushing for participation. And if all you wanted to do was just meet with me to talk about participation goals, I did not entertain that conversation as genuinely as I would if we walked in and I said, okay, how can we partner? I have opportunities that I would like to pursue with you and vice versa. And that's how we should approach it. But if you take that approach, it's going to open your mind a lot more where else you can go, what else you can do. And so again, we need to prepare our businesses, one, by educating them on that, but we need to help our service providers who are consulting our businesses to better understand how to really push them in that arena. And that's why it's just as important to get them ready so that they can support our businesses, because those are the people who are in the office or at the table. Because if you're in construction, you're not out on that field, you're not making money. So if all I'm doing is the back office stuff, I'm not making the money that I need to have a viable business. But marketing and expanding your boundaries, again, you're right. Get as many, if you're in that arena, get as many certifications that you can. See if some are reciprocated. See if there's reciprocity. Like the state of Missouri gives reciprocity to Kansas City businesses. As long as you're certified with the city of Kansas City, you're good with them, because our process is much more strenuous. But there are opportunities like that where your certification can go a lot of different places. Again, the cities, KCK accepts, the county accepts, our area transportation authority accepts it, our school district accepts it, because they don't have programs. But again, we're right next door to each other. Just leverage what we have going to help those businesses and build out that ecosystem. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. And one of the things that you touched on was, again, looking to partner, because a lot of times our MBEs, they get pigeonholed into being into just participating.
Yeah.
And it goes to a comment that our CEO has put in the chat. How do we move our MBEs to be primes or tier one suppliers, and not just looked at as, participating for 10 or 12%. When I think about the city of Kansas City's goals, now I'm forgetting them, the 15% or what have you. I think it's 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now with Kansas City, from our last disparity study, you can compete as a prime and still count towards your goals if you are doing at least 40% or more of the work. Like, you got to do the work. You can't just say, just because I'm of color, I got this. No, that's not how it works. But those are some new things that happen. But in order to push people from participating to priming, you got to get away from the MW, because those are participation goals. You have to get more towards things like small local business initiatives and things like that. That's why I'm so focused on that, because that's the only arena from a city perspective where I can break things up. People can prime these contracts. I can create those opportunities. 99% of the time, if you are certified as a minority or woman-owned business with the city, you qualify for an SLBE. It's almost like a graduation program. So you have to create those opportunities for them to prime contracts. Or just, again, from a corporate perspective, you guys can actually just create the opportunities. You don't have to say goals have to be set on this. You can say, we're going to set aside these projects for small businesses. We're going to set aside these projects for Black-owned businesses. We're going to set aside these projects for just Kansas City businesses. You can do that. I'm limited to how I can do that or how I describe it. but you guys can go further by doing that and creating those opportunities. And I think that's how we can begin to fill that gap.
Wow, awesome. And sometimes I think there is a, I try to think about what stops, what is really stopping us from doing what you just said in terms of extending those contracting opportunities. Because when I think about, when I think about the flexibility again that private industry has, uh, the government doesn't have that kind of flexibility. But then there was something else that you stated earlier. You were talking about APR funds, and I don't know what they are, but
rescue plan. It's like CARES Act under the new administration. It's not CARES Act anymore. It's American Rescue Plan. So it's CARES money.
Okay, gotcha. So even in your, as you talked about those contracting processes or what have you, and trying to ensure opportunities for MBEs, you talked about utilizing that capital or utilizing those resources to help create a fund for those MBEs. I mean, what responsibility does corporate America have in terms of creating, being creative to make sure that capital is available for those minority-owned businesses to grow?
Well, what they could do if we are successful with the ARP fund request to building this small business fund, which will be set up in 3 groups: grants, revolving loan, and forgivable loans. We are going to be looking for corporations to match the city's contribution to that fund. That is one way where we can work together. You can take that headache off your back. You can let us handle that and get them their capital. You can just keep focusing on creating those opportunities. That is a partnership way where we can really work together. But again, we are trying to do it in a way where we see the gap on the street, which is access to capital. And you're not going to find any money that's less than 6% in interest rate. Opportunities to forgive for them to hire and build capacity in their capabilities and pivot and recover in COVID-19. We are creating those opportunities, but we want to build a fund that lasts beyond 2024 when all this money has to be spent. We want something to always be revolving so that we filled that gap. We created that need, we know that need and we know what our businesses need as far as capital. So now we created a way for them to get capital ready. I just need everyone else to give me the contract so I can tell the businesses where to go so they can be contract ready and we'll be good. It's as simple as that.
Well, Nia, we're coming up to the end of our time. Is there anything else that I did not ask or that you would like to share with our audience today?
Actually, no, you hit everything. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the ARP fund, because that was the question my mayor gave me. Well, who's going to put some money on the table with us? Let me go talk to some people. But yeah, the ARP one is the big one. And again, if you want to learn more information about what we're trying to build with the Small Business Fund, working with our Economic Development Corporation, you can give me a call at 816-513-1234. I have the easiest extension in Kansas City. I'm not hard to find. If you Google my name or anything, my information will pop up, but we would love to get support from our local corps to build this fund out to meet that need for capital for our small businesses.
Awesome. And our CEO just posted in the chat about the Climber Fund there in Colorado that was initially funded at $50 million. I know that there are others that are going to be joining us from the other breakout rooms in just a moment, but I want to say thank you, Nia, for taking time to share with fellow corporate members. The city of Kansas City is critical in its support of minority-owned businesses. Again, a $4 billion budget. And so some of those dollars, many of those dollars should run through our MBEs. We would hope a significant portion. We want to thank you for your great leadership and insight and your courage for always taking on this conversation and being an advocate for minority-owned businesses. So again, thank you, Nia Richardson. We certainly appreciate you. Very welcome. We're at the top of the hour, everyone. So it's time for another break. So we want you to go stretch your legs, get some fruit, let the dog out, but be back in 10 minutes. The next corporate workshop will begin at 10 minutes past the hour, along with the next set of MBE workshops beginning as well at 10 minutes past the hour. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in just about 10 minutes.